On August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, guaranteeing women the right to vote in federal and state elections, is ratified by the required 3/4 of the states. America's suffrage movement grew out of the abolition and temperance movements of the 19th century. The 1848 Seneca Falls Convention is a landmark moment in the early days of the movement, with both men and women in attendance signing the Declaration of Sentiments, a treatise penned by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and based on the Declaration of Independence. It proclaimed, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal." The participants also passed a resolution declaring that it is the duty of the women of this country to secure to themselves their sacred right to the elective franchise. Some publicly ridiculed the efforts of the Seneca Falls Convention. The scorn was harsh enough to cause some backers of women's rights to withdraw their support. Nevertheless, Seneca Falls marked the beginning of the women's suffrage movement in America. Susan B. Anthony became an important figure in the movement in the second half of the 19th century, famously breaking the law by voting in the 1872 presidential election. She was fined $100, a fine which she refused to pay. During World War I, Lucy Burns and Alice Paul directly targeted U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, demanding the vote with protests outside the White House. Facing mounting pressure, Wilson called a special session of Congress in May 1919. In previous years, Congress had voted down the amendment 6 times. However, this 7th time was the charm. The amendment then went to the states for ratification. A vote in the Tennessee House of Representatives puts the amendment over the threshold, with a deciding vote cast by Harry T. Byrne, a 24-year-old legislator who reputedly changes his vote after receiving a note from his mother. Her message includes the words, "Don't forget to be a good boy." Byrne listens to his mother. The 19th Amendment is formally adopted into the Constitution 8 days later, on August 26, 1920. But it is not until the Voting Rights Act, 45 years later, that all women in the U.S. truly have the right to vote. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1227, Mongol leader Genghis Khan dies at age 65 after building one of history's largest land empires. In 1590, after returning to England for supplies, John White finds his Roanoke Island colony deserted. In 1612, the trial of the Pendle witches begins in England, eventually resulting in the hanging of 10 people. In 1931, China's Yangtze River peaks during a devastating flood that kills 3.7 million people. In 1963, James Meredith, the University of Mississippi's first black student, graduates in political science. In 1992, NBA legend Larry Bird announces his retirement just weeks after playing with the Dream Team. In 1994, a woman wins her case against McDonald's after suffering third-degree burns from spilled coffee. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. What is the nickname of Indianapolis Motor Speedway? The Monster Mile? The Track Too Tough to Tame? The Brickyard? Or the World Center of Racing? Think you know the answer? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Find out if you're right next time on Today in History. You made it through Today in History. Nice work. Now treat yourself. Click the video on the right for what happened yesterday in history. Still can't get enough? The link on the left's got the whole playlist buffet. Want to make history a daily habit? Click my face in the middle to subscribe.